Hello and welcome to Tonebenders Sound Design Podcast, where we talk with the sonic artists behind our favorite films, games, and series. My name is Tim Muirhead, and I will be your host today as we talk to one of the greats in sound for picture, Doc Kane. We are at the Disney lot where Doc works to talk to him about his impressive career. As an in-house recordist for Disney since the late 80s, Doc has seen just about everyone stand behind his mic. From A-list actors doing ADR and animation to loop group actors making the glue that holds our favorite scenes together, to voice of God narrations for the docs that open up our minds. Doc, it's wonderful to meet you.
Nice meeting you too, Timothy.
Thanks for inviting me into your space today. This is amazing.
Oh, thanks. I vacuumed and dusted a little bit, and it's like, it's one of the larger stages in town.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah. So I'm sure whenever you get interviewed, one of the first questions people ask you is how you got into the business. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to try and put a little bit of a twist on that, and I'm going to throw some people's names at you that I think might have been mentors of yours. Okay. And maybe you can talk about how you met them and what you might have learned from them. Okay. So let's start with Terry Porter.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, the best. Terry is the one that really helped us. Well, let me start back. When I was doing animation and started to record a lot of animation, it was that new era, and Terry was mixing all those like Lion Kings and Beauty and the Beast, and I'd always double check with him. I'd go, this is the days when I was able to walk on the stage. Now with Marvel security, you can't.
Do you want to just introduce who Terry Porter is for those who might not know?
Terry Porter is one of the finest re-recording mixers in the business for the last 35 years, and has done all the top Lion Kings and many live action mixes, and is very beneficial to where I am today. He actually got us into the academy. He made room for original dialogue mixer, which was never there before. Back in the day, wherever the actor was, they just record them. They didn't care. Hey, you got a mic, just record it. And that's why some of those older animated movies don't sound so great. Not
consistency.
Yeah, exactly. And so it became something. He goes, you guys, you and the other people that do all this original dialogue recording, you're basically the production mixer, and we think you should be there with us, the music effects and dialogue mixer. You're the fourth guy. And he's kind of sprung that on me. I didn't really think about it. I never went, hey, you know what? He said, we really think we should get you into the Academy. And it was successful, and it opened up the Academy Award for original dialogue mixers that you see today. They get a little funny about it because you've seen the Academy is getting very tight on hardware, and they don't want to make as many statues as they want to. But Terry pushed for it, him and his crew, and for many years we had that as an Academy Award nomination.
And what did he teach you when you were first getting in?
He would just say, the angle, it's close, it's too close. It was pretty much started with live action. And when I was starting in ADR, we didn't have all the tools. It was magnetic film, and there were no radio mics. There were lavs, and there was boom mics, but you always had to be careful. You couldn't get the mic too close, because in those days the mic was, this far away. It was a little farther than we have today, where we have the smaller mics where we can get in underneath a camera lens and get tight audio. So I would confer with him on the live action stuff that he was working on, and he'd go, yeah, it's a little closer, it's a little far away. Or he goes, no, the mic angles are good, it's easy, it's blending in. Because Terry's the type that would take the production sound, and there might be a door close over the S of groceries, and he'd just use the S off my loop and use the rest from production. And that's what directors loved, because they love their production. Sometimes it's there's nothing you can do. You have to use the whole loop because there's somebody lawnmower, or a grip in the back is hammering for the next scene, or somebody's yelling and screaming. But he always loved the production. And sometimes the loops were like Gary Marshall. We did a lot of work with Gary Marshall, and he loved looping. He loved it. He'd just like, this is my last chance to get the performance right, and it's the loop is good. So that's my bad imitation of Gary, but he was a great pal of ours. Awesome. Loved Harry. Always, he could always hear the dialogue, and that's one thing. Like, you have Terry Porter and Mike Minkler, and these really great mixers back in the day. If you listen to their mixes from the day you went into a screening to the day you saw it in the theater to today when you see it on TV, you hear every single line that those guys mixed in there. The blend is, the sound effects aren't overbearing, the music's perfectly balanced, but you know, it's all about, we want to hear the words, you know. When we'd do a group session, we'd have, 15 people in here, and all right, play it back. And Gary's thing was, I can't hear my dialogue. And he turned around and goes, there's too much chuffa. And that became one of our things. That we have a thing on the back of our door that goes upstairs to the machine and says, too much chuffa. So that was our, but he was really in the dialogue. Some directors are like, let's mess it up a little. Let the audience kind of work for it. Don't hand it to them. Let them bust through the effects or the music and get them used to the theater sound. But Terry and Mike Minkler and these fantastic Academy Award winning mixers, it was just perfectly balanced. Mm-hmm. He was like just tips on mics and EQ, and it's too close, it's too far back, it's thin, it's fat, and so we worked that. Every session was a little bit different.
And what about Vince Caro?
Yeah, Vince up at Pixar. Yeah, Vince and I met when we were doing some work back in New York. They sent me back to do pickup lines when they were scoring Lion King, and that's where I met Vince. I'm so spoiled here. I always have had a recordist that handles the DAT machines, at the time the DAT machines, and now it's Pro Tools. They mark, cut, edit, everything for me. I'm old school. But we were recording pickup lines for the actors because they are all going to be there scoring. So they were all in one area at the scoring stage. So they gave me a little studio downstairs and said, all right, we got these actors coming through. When they're done on the scoring stage, we'll bring them down.
So they were on the scoring stage singing?
Yeah, they were on the scoring stage singing. And then when they were done rehearsing, they would come down and we get all their pickup lines. And because that was both Beauty and the Beast and Lion King for both those. And I needed somebody to handle the DATs, because back in those days you had to push a button. Okay, this is take one, take two.
Yeah, index,
all that stuff. So I met Vince there, and Vince had been mixer also, a dialogue mixer. And that's where we hit it off. And he was working through, I think, Sony Studios, and he, Pixar was building a facility up north. And they said, who do you think would be great up here and who wants to move? And I knew Vince wanted to get out of the coast, East Coast. And so they offered it to him, and he jumped on it, which was the most brilliant move he had ever made. But we still work together today for all these Pixar movies. Amazing. Very knowledgeable. He's helped us out with some different mics. We always use the U87, but we were using a different mic, and Vince and I didn't like the backup mic that we use. We always do 2-track. And so he said, I love the Bronner mics. And I went, I've never worked with them, never heard of them. We had a scoring mixer come in for a pickup for an hour, and he brought a Bronner, and that was the only experience I had with it. So we worked with it and did a couple of sessions with it, and he goes, how do you like it? I said, great, beautiful mic. So we have stayed for the last 10 years with the Bronners and the U87s.
So I'm not familiar with the Bronner. What is that mic?
It's a tube mic. It's a really beautiful tube mic.
And then the last name that I got was Paul McGrath?
I hate that guy. Hate McGrath. No, Paul's my bud. Vince and Paul the three of us are in, we're in our world. This is the three of us are kind of the triangle of animation in the Disney world. And Paul does a lot of television animation. He does traditional live action looping and anything. He's become a really great young mixer, and he's got it all down. I watch him work, and it's really fun. He's new school. I'm old school, but they use Eddie Prompt and all these cool things. But and he can fly on it and just okay, let's go to the next line, ding ding ding, and he's got that where I still punch in everything manual, just so I know. But he's really into the whole automation, and he has to do a lot of editing. He has to do a lot of placing and mixing and stuff because he has to play it right back to the producers that are sitting like right behind him, and he's grace under fire. He's really, because there's a lot of stuff going on. He's just a really great guy.
Awesome.
Yeah, my respect to both him and Vince. You know, they're the three of us are good pals, and couldn't have better pals in this business, especially when you need something and you go, you know, can you do this for me? And they go, yeah, sure, or vice versa. And, you know, my mic went out, you know, and he's helped us out on some location stuff where he's had to go out and help us set up for these remote at like an actor's house, and we'll just give him the stuff and he goes out there, and because there's a lot of connecting now with the Pro Tools and all the stuff, because the directors are in Toronto and they want to hear the stuff, so everything from the house is piped to us, and then we filter it out, and it's all got to work ISDNs, and it's got to sound great. And he's been one of our core people in helping us out with that. You know, I've always said, in this business, the time you say no, you're screwed. Oh, we can't do that. And I've always said to like new people, they go, well, we can't do that. You said, what? Well, give us a second. And that's why Andy Winterbaum, who's our chief engineer, he goes, you told him we could do it? No, I'm just, no. He's going, yeah. He goes, okay, hold on a second. And then they go back and get some gizmo, and can you give us 15 minutes? I go, hey, you guys, can you give us 15 minutes? Yeah, sure, we'll do it. Yeah, no problem. So they come in and 15, maybe might be a half hour.
Yeah.
But it always gets hooked up. It always gets done. It might not be the most smoothest thing because they didn't give us any audition time.
Yeah.
But it never say no. I mean, we've got enough gizmos around this place, that cameras and monitors and Pro Tool rigs and anything. So it's just like, sure, we can. And these guys go, oh, no, don't say that. Yeah, I was like, all right, give us some time. So we just make it happen.
That's awesome. So speaking of making it happen, what percentage of your time is spent recording animation versus loop group versus ADR?
Yeah, it's about, I'd say about 75 to 80% live ADR. 20% plus or minus is loop group. And then since Paul has gotten his studio, he does a lot of our VO work, and Vince does a lot of the Pixar stuff too. So it's probably 10, 15, maybe 20%. But it's really the ADR in here is really, especially now that we've expanded the Marvel universe, there's a lot of, and it's not because the production's bad, it's just that they do a lot of story changes, and they can do things in ADR that, you know, they may have problems with, well, nobody's getting that, so we need to do something for the audience. So we'll change stuff around in here, and as long as it matches the production dialogue. And I think these Marvel films, I don't know if you how many you've seen in a big theater, but we take a lot of pride in making sure that nothing bounces, because it's sort of like, hey, like Rocket, hey, Rocket, you know, it's like, what's going on, what's happening, you know, that type of stuff just drives me crazy. So we find out who the production mixer is on those shows, what mics he or she was using, and if there was any strange, you know, radio mic stuff there. So we get all that information. We use exactly the same microphones that were used in production, or as close as we can. You know, sometimes they have some weird mic that they just have to unplug real fast, but most of the time it's the Sennheiser or the DPA lav mics. And
that leads me to a question that I wanted to ask you. So recently we interviewed the team behind the sound of Top Gun. The recent Top Gun.
Yeah.
And they were talking about how there's a large percentage of the dialogue in that movie is through these masks.
Yeah.
And they had a really hard time getting the ADR to match that.
Right.
And I was wondering, as an ADR recordist, not that exact thing, but how do you go about figuring out how to record? Do you use special microphones? Have you ever had to record that kind of thing?
I have.
How do you tackle that?
I should say the most I've had experience with is helicopter stuff with the Dave Clark.
Similar,
with the Dave Clarks. And so if we have a scene, let's say with the loop group.
The Dave Clarks, you just want to explain that real quick?
The Dave Clarks are aeronautic, is that the right word?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, they're helicopter and airplane headphones.
So the communication system within the helicopter.
Right, it's got the microphone attached to it, and they can hear in it, but it's got its own futzed little strange sound. So it's that's right. And it's a horrible sound, but it's a sound, and it's really cool. So I'll 2-track that or 3-track it. I'll put the headset on the actor, and with the mic in the proper place, and then we'll have like a
real Dave Clark
headset.
Oh, you have one of those.
Oh,
okay.
yeah,
Perfect.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, after this, I'll show you the mic locker that we have.
Awesome.
It's a mess, but it's like my garage, but it's like, so I'll put that on there, and then I'll put a lav mic on there, and then I'll use like an MKH50 to. U87s are great for a lot of stuff, but if you want more of a production sound, it's a little too clean sounding, whereas with the Sennheiser shotgun microphone, it has a little bit of mid-range to it. A beautiful microphone, nicest production microphone we use. But the Dave Clark, that way it's a blend. If the director says, it's too much helicoptery, can we give a little more live, or let's do a little more lab, it's hurting my ears. So he'll have those 3 channels to blend with. And walkie-talkies. We'll do the same with walkie-talkies. We might have a situation where we're doing a show that's like, there's a fire, and then we have the fire department, this is C, and all that stuff. And so we have walkie-talkies back there. So I'll put a walkie-talkie out here with the U87, because it is close, and they'll futz that to maybe match the thing, and then I have the actors back in that room and hand them the talkie, and they have
so the actors out of the room and the walkie-talkies in front of the U87.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, they're all back there, and that way I can monitor it in there properly. There's a door that seals those two, and it's a lot easier. I also have a system where they can be in here, all of them in here, and I built a little foam box to put the other one in. So I could record it there, and I had a microphone in the box. So I record the walkie-talkie in there, and then record the U87 and the walkie here. And that way I could go back and forth. But you still get a little, you really have to build a soundproof box.
Of course,
it's not that, but this is like soundproof, perfectly soundproof. So we try and get the original sound as much as we can. Do you know what the dimensions of this room are? I'm just trying to think for the people who are listening, they can't see. It's a big room. This room is 40 feet deep, 30 feet wide, and about 17 feet high, 18 feet high ceilings.
So, like when I think you said about 10% loop group that you do, was that the number you said?
Yeah.
Like this room seems like it would be a pretty ideal room for a big loop group. So I was expecting that number to be a little bit higher, actually.
Don't tell these other people that you've been talking to, but it's the best for a loop group because it is so big. It's really great. And the beauty of how we record this is we have the group leader who's on Zoom, and then we might have the director on Zoom. And most of the time the ADR editor will be here at the table with us. If not, they're also on Zoom. And then we use what's called Clearview. Have you ever dealt with Clearview?
I'm familiar with it.
Yeah, we deal with Clearview for the audio part, so they can hear in stereo or mono, whatever I'm giving them.
Sorry, just for the listeners, that's like an app that helps deliver audio to the various people not in the actual studio.
Exactly. Zoom is great for picture, but not for audio. So we run Zoom alongside Clearview, and Clearview is a full frequency app that works. You can take your computer and plug it into your stereo system at home and get the full on frequency, high frequency stuff, full frequency. So they're always talking. We have all these different monitors. They're talking to the group and they're monitoring. And I have a camera. The room's a little bit different when I do it, but that monitor over there gets pushed back against the wall. And then we put a camera on this station right here, this music stand. And then I do what's called LCR, which left, center, right. And that's what the red marks are for.
Oh, perfect, yeah.
And so when I record them, I use MKH50s specifically for this. I've tried other mics. For some odd reason, the pattern of the microphone on an Sennheiser MKH50, it just works beautifully because it has a little bit of bleed from the three groups. I might have 7 people, 7 people, 7 people. Maybe 2 in the middle, and then 5 on each side, depending on what they want. And it's beautiful. It's left, center, right, and I just make sure all, the levels are good, because in a Marvel movie, as you've seen, they can go from, hey, a restaurant scene to there's a bomb explosion, and they all scream, and I'm ready for it. And, we use analog compressors and analog mic pre's and all that, but you have to be ready. I've some groups come in and I go, okay, Doc, do we have to do this in 2 pieces where you do the low stuff and then we'll stop and we'll do the screaming stuff? I said, no, just put the wireless headphones on and chase it. So I put the production dialogue in their headsets while we're recording, and we'll record the rehearsal, because it's always that first react, because they don't know what's real. They haven't seen it. We won't let them see it. Doesn't happen all the time, but when we do, it's a lot of fun. And I kind of know what's coming up, so I'm kind of ready from a whisper to a scream. And so they'll just react off the screen and the audio through their wireless headsets. That way they can move around. We love movement. When somebody's just standing there going, you just go, all right, you came in here for a specific reason. Then they get into it. So we fight scenes, but movement is really the secret to the whole thing. Instead of an actor just standing there going, oh my gosh, what's happening? Movement is everything to us. And if it's an exterior and the editor wants a little more separation, because there's bleed between the mics. We built these plexiglass separators because of COVID, just to have them. So we had to separate the actors. But then as we started doing more and more and more, and the COVID started to kind of go away, I was using them to put them in between the microphones, and that helped a little bit more separation for the exteriors.
So between the LCR microphones?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, there'd be one wedged in between each red mark there. Mm-hmm. And then when they were done, everything's on wheels around here, so they'd roll it themselves, so we didn't waste any time coming out, moving stuff. It's just the stage moves quickly. You have 15, 20 actors, and you got 9 hours, and otherwise it gets expensive if they want to do another day. And budgets are tight now, so we can get a lot done in one day now. The actors are so good. The Loop Group people are really great.
Hey there, this is Tim back at my studio. I'm going to interrupt Doc Kane for a second to remind listeners that we have 2 Tonebenders sound design meetups coming up soon. September 26th in Toronto and October 26th in New York City. The previous ones we have done in LA and Austin have been absolutely amazing nights. So if you find yourself in either of those cities, please come on out to raise a glass while talking shop and telling stories. If you plan on going to the AES convention in New York, it will coincide with our meetup there. The Toronto meetup will be at the Pilot near Bay and Bloor on September 26th at 7 p.m. And the New York meetup will be at the Crompton Ale House in Chelsea on October 26th at 7 p.m. Full details can be found at tonebenderspodcast.com. Fellow Tonebenders host Teresa and myself will be at both, and it would be great to hang out and learn what you all are doing with sound. So join the sound design community in these cities and come on out. Okay, let's jump back to my talk with Doc Kane. Speaking of actors, you're obviously only half the equation of ADR. Mm-hmm. The performance is, many people say the performance is king. Mm-hmm. So is there any particular actor that has been really impressive with ADR or has a special way of looking at it? And how can an actor, from your point of view, be most successful with ADR?
Well, first of all, you can't fight it. If you're a young actor, just to get into one more thing, if you are a young actor, we've got people come in here and go, I hate ADR. Well, now it's become like, you got to do it because the environment that they're put in for these shows, there's noise, and the director goes, we were hurrying to get the shot done, and you guys were kind of like nervous about it because got you all like, we got to get the shot, let's go.
Half the time they're building the next set right behind camera. So.
Hand me the tuba, hand the sandbag. So this is like a Meryl Streep. This is their last chance to improve their performance before it goes out to the world. And so it still has to sync, it still has to get it, but these actors and actresses are so good and locking into sync. Like with Meryl, she'll look at the cue sheets and you go, well, how come we're only doing that scene? She goes, back it up. And so we'll back it up, and she'll go, let me see the scene previous to it. She goes, I think I can tie the two scenes together a lot better. Can you guys, hey, and, talks to the director. Is it okay if we go back and do some previous stuff? And then the director's like, hey, whatever you want. And this is happening more and more. But so I'll back it up, and we'll cue it as fast as we can. And just say, hey, Meryl, just give us a second.
Yep.
We're going to cue it. So we cue it. And then we record all the lines she wants, go in and out of production, dialogue, new loops, music and effects, which is provided by editorial.
Yep.
And by gosh, it's a whole new scene. Because her thing is, well, I had a fight with my husband, or my dog was sick, and that day when we were shooting, there was noise on the set, and the catering was bad, and I had a stomach. It's all that
yeah,
stuff.
a reason that doesn't have her full focus. Or
Exactly,
yeah.
exactly. Full focus is right. And so she's focused. There's just the director, editor, myself, my recordist, and it's her, and she's just like zeroing in on it, and it always. But it's still got a match. It still has to be a production blender.
ADR has a bad rap.
Mm-hmm. It does.
It has a bad rap.
Right.
As you mentioned, it's easier now, so people are starting to like it more just because it's not as maybe time consuming. But like when someone comes in, maybe they're a young actor or maybe they're an old actor who doesn't appreciate it. How do you get them comfortable / in the mood? Do you feel that that's part of your job, or do you feel that's the director's?
I've been doing this so long, people kind of know me, they know who they know me, and you'll see some people over at Warner Brothers that we see the same actors a lot, and they really kind of trust us. And sometimes they'll say, where are we going? And some of the smaller, little independent, I'm not putting them down because there's a price to everything. But sometimes they get stuck in a booth that size, and it doesn't, when they shoot a scene, it's on a big stage, and the booms are up here, there's a place for the audio to go. And sometimes on some of these smaller rooms, trying to match some ADR is a little bit tougher. I think this is just my own feeling. And most of the time, these guys do so great to make the sound as good as it is. But I need a room like this where especially yelling and screaming, if there's loud sounds, the audio has a place to go instead of just bouncing back and going back into the microphone. So it's like, what am I listening to? Here it's like shooting on a soundstage, which is an advantage to having a large room, to my ear. And but it's interesting because Donald Sutherland has a method. Every single line is streamered. So we use beeps and streamers. If he hears beeps, he'll walk off the stage. He'll literally just said, it's changing the tone of my performance. And we got it. I got that like 30 years ago.
Now you know.
Now I know. So when we started doing work with him again, I forgot what it was, he knew that I would have the picture streamered. But when we started it with him, it was on a projector. And so we had a China pan or whatever the editors had to do the streamers with physically on the film.
Well, film projector, to be clear.
Film projector, right.
So you're writing on the film with grease pencil.
Exactly. And it's just like a line starts at the first line and it goes like across that. And we were getting into the Pro Tools era, digital video, and he was the last one to use the mag or the film. And so we were doing a show with him, and I had found a really cool digital video deck that worked with an audio digital video deck, so it was just instant recall. And I knew he was coming in, so I prepped, the film editor prepped the film version of it, and I prepped the video version of it with digital streamers. And so he was looking at the film. We were rolling the film, and the film is beautiful. I mean, compared to a digital picture, it's still beautiful. It was big. And all right, Doc, let me see the whole scene first before we do this. He, has that sort of great grandeur. And we're watching it, and he starts. He goes, "Wait a second, you missed an inhale." And I went, "What?" He goes, yes, go down to 900 feet. 900 feet. He goes, yeah, I do a, and I went, all right. You know where that is, Doc? And I said, yeah, we've got it. We've tagged it. He's going to go up and stream it. He goes, I'm awfully sorry to do that to you. He goes, but he goes, you know what I need. I know what you need. And so he goes upstairs, and I said, hey, Donald. He goes, yes. He goes, hey, can I show you something? Well, what would you like to show me? I said, I have a digital video system with streamers that I'd really like to show you. He goes, you guys have been trying to sell me that for years. I said, this one really works. He goes, yeah, sure. Okay, show it to me. And we had an engineer here that's a classic pianist, and I ran it 4 times. I said, are these streamers dead on? Because Donald's going to...
Yeah,
and he goes,
this is a make or break moment.
He goes, move it a frame. He goes, I think you can move it a frame, even though the editors stream it. Sometimes, they might not hear, they may hear something that we don't or whatever, so we might be a frame off, and it's very easy to add. So I had him check it 3 times. We ran it, and I said, because he goes, yeah, Donald's coming in, you want to sell it, right? So he goes, okay, let's see it. And I played it for him from top to bottom with all the video streamers. He goes, those aren't right. And he's right up at the screen, looking up at the screen. He goes, those are not right. And I went, yeah, they are. I said, I had a classical pianist check it 3 times. He goes, run it again. Runs it again. He goes, tell the guy up there, forget it. We're out doing digital video. And we were just like back there going, oh, thank God. And from there on, I mean, we did all his movies. Yeah, so he is genius with it. But he wants to go from top to bottom, no matter how long the scene is. The podium, he's 6 feet 2 or 3. I mean, he's a tall guy, and he has all his ADR sheets spread out. And he looks over, and he knows where he is at all times with the picture. And he uses those streamers. Those are his gods. And we'll do the whole scene, top to bottom. And we might do a couple of pickups, but his whole theory was, look, I know what you sound editors need. I understand the concept. He goes, but in my world, he goes, I can hear when you take 4 from the first 2 lines and take 26 from the 4th line. He goes, I hear the roller coaster. He goes, I hear the ups and downs, and it's not, it just doesn't work for me. And I'd rather have 1 organic piece of film or 3 at the most, so you guys could cut my scenes together and not have this, because you hear those commercials with, so come on over to Bob's house. Yeah, you just go, oh my gosh. So that's his thing.
So you mentioned earlier that you use all analog compressors.
Yes.
And then you also mentioned that you're on the faders all the time.
Yes.
So you're pulling the input into Pro Tools down, but you're not messing with the compression of the actual...
No, the compression stays the same. Yeah, that was a little learning curve with Pro Tools for me. Like, well, if you bring it down too much, the compressor's going to do this. And I'm like, so we found a happy medium, because I can't be doing the compressors and all that. I'd just rather leave the compressors. And it's usually like 4 to 1, not to get into the weeds, but it's just a safety. Mm-hmm. But I am always writing the faders around, whether it's the lav mic and the production mic, because you've got the script in front of you, you've got your blueprint, they rehearse it. I'm watching it on film where they go, honey, I hate you. And it's going to go from a whisper to a scream. So, you got your cue there, and you can't bring it down. It can't sound like, I hate you. It's got to sound big and huge and crazy, and you don't want to lose that. So, back in the day when I was learning that stuff, I would do that, and it's just a learning process. And over the years, as the equipment got better, the new compressors and the new mic pre's and all that, and the mics are better, and it's just, you could do that. You could really keep it, yelly, screamy, and not lose any of the definition. It's always the younger people, they come in and it's like they scream and they go, should I pad the mic? Should I pad the... No, don't just let her rip. Just be ready. And if we're training somebody new, we have, you met Dawn. She's our test. When we buy new compressors.
Oh, you put her on the mic?
Oh, yeah. She has this voice that's just like...
Dawn is the person who helped set this interview up with me.
Scheduler. She's our panel. She's the...
So you bring her in and put her in front of the mic for the new people and let her scream and yell and then whisper?
The last set of compressors and mic pre's we bought, we did a test with a whole bunch of them. And, people go, yeah, but if you put the test tone through it and do this, I see a modulation of 339. And I go, I don't care. I said, get Don in here. So Don comes in and we hook up the compressors that I thought would be good. All right, Don. She we'd have to buy her lunch and a throat lozenge. And so she'd come in here and, okay, start screaming. And she's blood curdling screams. And then we start adjusting, the compression to where it was. And, lower your frequency, like, what? And so she'd do all these different things for like a half hour just screaming into it. So that was, okay, this compressor is way better than that other compressor, or that mic breeze handles this one way better. And so that's how we based our final testing on, is what is the real world screaming, yelling, and no test tones. Mm-hmm. So we put it through the organic...
the Don test.
The Don test, exactly right.
So you are doing analog instead of going to digital.
Mm-hmm.
With the picture, you slowly moved into digital. Do you have any plans to ever go digital?
Everything's digital now.
Well, I mean, but like compressors and... Like, for the front end?
Maybe it's just getting really good. Mm-hmm. But I've never like... what film do I test this out? And they turn around and go, what the hell happened? You're like, oh, shit.
Yeah,
what have I done? So I kind of stay. We have a sound. We kind of have a sound here on the stage.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially with our, like, animated people. And I'm afraid to just, like, go out there and change something. And it's like, hey, Doc, what the hell happened here? It doesn't sound the same. And you go, I was trying something new. And then it's usually, well, then don't.
Yeah.
It's that whole thing. But, yeah, I mean, we have a sound, and we know the stuff works, and we know if somebody just starts screaming and yelling through the microphone, it's going to hold properly.
So we asked you earlier what your percentage of time you spend doing different things. Mm-hmm. Which one do you prefer? Like when you wake up in the morning and look at your schedule, are you happy to see that you're doing lots of ADR? Or?
I love it all. I mean, anything, especially the group of people we have, the clients that we have a lot of great outside clients too. We just, thank God, don't have to just stick to the Disney peeps. Since it is a large room, Warner Brothers comes over and they use our facilities, sometimes Universal. All the studios kind of share, and the same with us. Warner Brothers, does stuff because the actor might be over there shooting and they have to do stuff, and they have beautiful stages and some really great mixers over there, which I don't know who you're going to see today, but they're all great. Seriously, you don't last very long if you're a dick. In these, I hate to say it.
It's strange how simple a concept that is, and how many people don't get it.
It's like, I've witnessed, or I've been told about people that just say, the person was rude, the mixer was rude. How do you get away with that and still working? Mm-hmm. I think now, if you went through all the mixers from New York, Chicago, us, California, they're all the nicest people, genuine. They're not like, yes, Miss Streep, you're really great. It's not like, it's a genuine, organic, what do you need, Meryl? And she goes, I'm not here. I need to hear this. And you go, okay, just give me a second. We'll do that. We'll lift this. You just do it. There's no and as soon as they ask you for something, you just do it. There's no, so what did you want? And because everybody's kind of like, let's put it this way. Nobody really wants to be in here for ADR because they'd rather be doing voiceover for animation where it's fresh. But the people that are really good at this stuff, they understand what we need and what the director needs and what they want to hear.
And it's also a case of it's got to be done. Why make it miserable?
Exactly. I mean, by the time you argued about this one line, we could have gone and done 3 more lines. Mm-hmm. And that's sort of, they know now, it took years, but now they know they're here for a specific reason. And when you play it back, when you play the original production, they go, oh, okay, I hear it. I totally hear it. So you can discuss it all you want, but proof is in the hearing. Mm-hmm. And once you get something that's much better, and they go, as soon as they say, this is much better than what we did on the day, you got them in the pocket, you got them, and then they really work it because they know you know what you're doing. Because I think there are some places where they probably put new kids in there, and it might be a little rough. And they're going, and I made a couple of notes in that, like with Jamie Lee Curtis.
Okay.
And Jamie Lee, I've worked with her since the MAG days. I was at Warner, and And I really felt sorry for these actors because they'd come in. We didn't have all the music and effects on a different channel, so it would be all this. We'd play the track, and back in those days, the mics were kind of up. So if you were outside and there's traffic, you didn't have the lavs to kind of like, quiet everything down and or bring like the MKH50s or 60s closer. So, the new technology kind of keeps the crap out of the way of the mouth. And so when I was new to it, I just, you play it and you beep, 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 and you get rid of all the stuff behind it, and it was just their voice, and they just, it was like, oh my God, that's just my voice raw. And so after a couple of years of doing that and hearing, one time, Jamie Lee, she said, I have never walked out of one of these rooms thinking that I improved my performance. Oh. And I thought, you know what, these rooms are for performance. These rooms are not here to just like, all right, let's get the loops. We probably won't use it, but well, then why are you guys here spending all this money and wasting director, actor, everybody's time? So there's got to be a way. So we did. After I moved away from Warner Hollywood, I came over here, I was thinking there's got to be a way to grab audio. I mean, whether we use a keyboard, because this is the synthesizers now, and you hear people, yeah, if I hit this key, well, I'm going to hear birds, and this one's ocean background. And if I hit this, it's a drum kick. Or like, I'm going, why can't we do that with a sampler for the poor person to, instead of running the thing, hey, Bob, I'm coming after you. Well, we only just want, hey, Bob. So I did a film with Taylor Hackford and her, and I can't remember if it was her film first. It was probably with Taylor Hackford's film. But I found an old Lexicon sampler, and I went, is there a way to, like, if I grab something, is there a way to just keep my finger on the button and it triggers a loop? It took me a couple of days to figure it out, and so I found, like, in between dialogue, so it was a lot of exteriors with light traffic in the back, and the actor would say, I'm going to come after you, dead silence, before the other actor talked. So I'm going to come after you. I'd grab the sample that was cross-patched with the production track. I grabbed that background, and I just needed a little bit, and then I'd loop it. So it was like, sometimes it would, had a little glitch in it, but for most of the time it was great. So I started playing back.
And how are you triggering the sample? On a keyboard?
It was actually on the unit itself.
Okay.
Yeah. It was the Lexicon 2500. Oh, I'll
get
you the right one.
Okay.
It's an older one.
Yeah. And the front panel of it.
Exactly, right. And so I just hold on to it, and then it would loop it through. And I didn't have time to, edit, and I wasn't that sufficient. I just needed let's go. So I would play the loops. It was really fun. This is when it was really a ball, because I could play it, and I'd go out of the loop and into the background and get rid of the production dialogue just for that line. And I'd just kind of let the loop play like the, and Taylor would turn around and he goes, no, I've heard the production, Doc. I want to hear the loop. And I go, this is a loop. He goes, what the fuck? I was, what are you doing back there? And I said, I found this, thing like that. And Taylor was just having a ball, because, as soon as the backgrounds drop out, it's really dry, and I was like, no. So after that, we started refining it a little bit, and then Jamie Lee came in for a film, and I had told her about well, I didn't say anything. First, I wanted to get through the session. And there was a scene where she's in a Porsche, and she's talking on the phone, or she's talking to somebody in the car, and the Porsche is a convertible, and they're going up the Santa Monica Mountains, and you hear that, and so I was able to put that under, because it was really a noisy, I think it was a lav mic, a bigger one. And so I put that under her loops on playback. And she goes, wait a second, wait. And she goes, this technology now is coming, she'd look around and it's just, this is what's happening. So then, in addition to that sampler, what we use almost every day now is, especially for the Skywalker people, is if, I have Adam Driver here, if they're having a problem with the line, then they say, hey, Doc, let's just do the hear it, say it. So, hey, Bob, I'm coming after you. Hey, Bob. And so I loop that, and I put it out to the stage or in their headphones and go, okay, we'll just sample it. hey Bob, how are you? So they'd hear the original production, they'd hear it, say it. We do like 10 takes. They go, get in the fifth one. And my assistant, Brett Boss, he's my editor, recordist, everything in the world. He's one of those young guys that grew up with a computer on their lap.
I appreciate you calling me young. That was very kind of you.
Younger than me.
Yeah.
Right by a long shot. And so he edits in, and we have all the music and effects to play back, and we play it back and go in and out of production. Where's Bob? Bob, I'm coming out. And, with the right miking and the right playback and stuff, it works really well. So we use that loop of it a lot, that loop portion. It's really great.
Cool.
It gets us through a lot of stuff. Or if the actor's having a problem with like something, we may not use that, but at least I can play it without having to run picture. I can just go, here, listen, this is the line. Hey, what's going on? Hey, what's going on? They go, hey, what's going on? Okay, I got it. Let's go. It's just, instead of picture going back and forth, even though it's digital picture, it goes back and forth very quick. It's still, it's still kind of focusing on the audio is way easier than picture and stuff. So that's one of the tricks.
So we've gone way longer than I was expecting to, which is amazing.
Sorry.
No, don't be sorry. This is fantastic. I just want to maybe wrap up with a question about kind of the politics of the stage. Mm-hmm. Because there are times when you have to shut up. And there are times when you have to make sure your points gets across. Yeah. And finding those lines for maybe someone that's newer might be more difficult. Do you have any kind of guidelines, or how do you navigate that?
Well, when it's a new client or it's a new show that I haven't worked with, I keep my finger off the talkback as much as I can. And you find out who is. It might not be the director. It might be the editor that the director trusts so much that he or she will let the editor make some of the decisions.
Drive the bus.
Drive the bus, because the editor, he or she is cutting it, and they hear the rhythm is off just a little bit, but if they stretch it out, we cut off camera and we add this awful lot, it's that type of stuff. It's the mechanical, and if we add this and then stretch it off. And the actress or actor goes, okay, I see exactly what you want. And they don't need me going, so do you guys want to record one now? It's like, when they're ready to record, because most of the time they'll just go, okay, let's try it. And you just push the button and it's beep, beep, beep. As you get into the session, if it's an ongoing project, like the Disney Plus shows that like turn into series, and you find out who is kind of directing, and if they'll take, I might throw in and go, hey, you know what, you guys, what if we just pitch that up just a little bit on the last line or something? And she goes, okay, let's try it. And you go, okay, I'm in. You've unlocked it, but you only do that sparingly. It's just these people are trying to focus on something, and all we're there is just to make sure we grab it and play it back properly. I mean, it's basically, you have to, I hate to use this, but it's selling. You have to sell the loop to the audience. It can't be, so Bob, what's going on? It just drives me crazy. So when it blends in properly, so Bob, what's really happening? It's 2 takes blended together. Maybe production and maybe loop, then you've done your job. And my recordist, Brett, has done his job, because he might have to put a fade across the bump or whatever so it doesn't bump. And, we may have to match the lavs. When I was first started, people were using that much lav, or now we use the lavs, and we use them a lot. So we're really focused on that, making sure that lav sounds just like it's supposed to, as opposed to the boom mic sounding good, because they might have to just use the lav. It saves time for them trying to make the production boom microphone sound like a radio. Yeah. I mean, these guys can do it. They can make it sound like anything they want, but there's a lot, the time, they just don't have the time. They got to get the stuff out. So if we can give them a good lab sound without them having to futz too much on the stage, that's where I'm at. That's why I liked, we've done some shows where, let's say the mixer over at Warner Brothers doesn't have to, if we're doing a live action and I'm getting as close as I can to the production dialogue, EQs, level, and all that, the poor re-recording mixer doesn't have to be like, well, this one's 10 dB low. What's happening here?
It makes everyone's job easier.
Exactly. If it's just a little tweak on, a trim volume where it's like, mother, I'm going to save you. If it's mother, I'm going to save you, maybe it's a little different level because that's the way she wrote it. All I have to do is just touch one little knob instead of like, okay, well, it's going to give me till after lunch so we can EQ this stuff to match the production dialogue. That's crazy. There's no reason for that. And another trick that we, unfortunately, when we get these tracks from editorial, a lot of times the boom and the radio are combined together. So we're getting a 50-50, and we just go by the seat of our pants going, I bet you it sounds like this. And 9 times out of 10, it's pretty close, but it's still in the back of our head going, I wonder what the boom by itself sounds like. We'll never know. It's like we're not, if they had to break out all that stuff, they'd never get it done because it's just, that assembly is just so huge.
There's a famous story of, I believe it was Picasso, was sitting somewhere and someone asked him to draw something. And he drew something on a napkin and said, that'll be $30,000. And the person said, what do you mean? That took you 20 seconds. And he said, yeah, it took me 30 years how to do that in 20 seconds. And like when you say 9 out of 10 times you get it right,
mm-hmm.
That's because you've been doing it long enough. Like that's experience. It's not, that's not luck. You're saying it like, we luck into it, but that's not it at all.
Yeah, it's just working with it and just kind of from not getting any shit back from the stage going, well, this isn't, because we kind of did it properly. It's not bouncing all over the place. It's not like, the mics aren't matching. We've done it enough in our career to know where that mic really was. And I'm always asking the actor, like, once I can go onto the talkback, I'll come out and I'll make a mic adjustment. And I'll just say, hey, I know you guys were focused on it, but do you remember where the boom guy was? He goes, yeah, you know what? He was underneath me because the da-da-da. I go, that's why it sounds a little different. She goes, yeah, sorry about that. I said, no, great. So I'll take the boom and I'll flip it around. And when we did another film and we were looping the person, and I'm like going, where is that sound from? Well, the director turns to the ADR soup and goes, okay, so before we let him go, do we have everything? And he goes, yeah. Yeah, and how about the lav mic underneath the guy's hat? I'm like, that's why no wonder. You got to be kind of a detective about because it sounds like the mic fell off or the guy stepped on it with a shoe or, because a lot of time in stage work, they will put the labs in the right up here, which sounds really bitchin'. I mean, it sounds great. And when I hear that, we have headbands,
of course,
so we can take the labs and put them there. We still record with all the production mics, but we'll find out what mic up front it was. It's usually the DPAs, or they had a microphone there, but for the live Broadway stuff, it's always hidden. And
in the wigs.
And it sounds great. So we'll just replicate what we can.
So when was this room built?
1943, 44.
So this room has seen some things.
This room, I mean, it's had Walton here doing, oh boy, or his weird, whistly thing.
So, and you've been here working this room. This is the room that you started in the 80s, late 80s. No,
I started over at Warner Hollywood.
But when you moved to Disney,
when I moved, yes, it was about 88. Yeah, 1988.
And it was this room that you were in since then.
This is the only dialogue. This room was built when the studio was built in 43 or 44, and this was always the dialogue room. So this is where Steamboat Willie started. Well, I shouldn't say that was over at the other studio that Walt had before they built the studio. I think he did Steamboat Willie in one of the rooms. But like your
Cinderellas and your Snow Whites and stuff were all over here.
Yeah, the bibbidi bobbidi boos. Yeah, there's some pictures out there, you should take a look at. And,
for sure. So, of the years that you've been here, what can you maybe it was the Jamie Lee Curtis story, but maybe can you tell us to go out on with a story of some kind of like magical moment where just like an actor did something that has become iconic, or is there anything like that you can think of?
There's been a lot, but let's see. We had been doing the Lion Kings and feature animation and stuff, and when we started working on those things, it was like, wow. And everybody was back there with me. All the the artists and Don Hahn, the producer, was back, and the directors are back there.
So they're behind the glass.
Behind the glass back in those days. And now, everybody's out here. That's why we have all the headphone boxes, and then they sit on the couch and
in the room where the actor's performing,
exactly.
which is where we
turn
are
the
right
room.
now.
Yeah, like if Tim or Tom comes in, we turn the room around so they're facing the table. Everything's movable. But it was funny because before we were doing Lion King or whatever, and I went in and I talked to, Dawn wasn't the scheduler at the time. She was probably not even born yet. And so I'd go in and I said, hey, so, what's our schedule? What we got coming up? And she goes, well, we got a weird little company called Pixar. They've booked in and they do digital cartoons. It's probably going to be one of those little, companies that come in, they do one film and you'll never see them again. I went, oh, cool, okay, well, that'll be fun. Well, then several weeks later, they come in and it's John Lasseter and Andrew Stanton and Pete Docter and those guys, the coolest guys in the world. Coolest guys in the world. They're all out here, and we've got Tom as the first victim.
Hanks.
Tom Hanks is out there, and so he's over there. And we had a couple of baffles, but Pete, Andrew, the whole brain trust is out here, and John's with me in a director's chair, on a tall director's chair, and he's right here, and I'm here, and the editorial support. He's really cool, real nice guy. He's over on the right, and he's keeping track of the dates and all that stuff. And we start talking, and hey, this is great, Doc. I love the room. Everything is fine. And then Tom comes in, and I have no idea what any of this stuff is. It was Toy Story.
Yeah, of course.
And we didn't have video back in those days. It was all like drawn first, and they're showing Tom, and I'm back there, and I'm just just keeping it going. And they're showing Tom all this stuff and whatever. And then we start recording. And you are a toy. All that stuff starts. We actually have a video of all that stuff.
Wow.
Somebody snuck a camera in. I hear about this 30 years later. Tom just was unbelievable. And I'm listening to this and going, what the hell is this stuff, And then John goes, yeah, it's the toys and the this and the that. I'm going, this is spectacular. And then Tom's in here for like 3 or 4 hours just blowing his voice out. You are a toy! And just screaming and yelling for 4 hours. So I knew something. It was really weird because I knew this was something.
Right
feature animation. Yeah, feature animation was always great. They were consistent, and it was always a great story. And the guys and gals were just the best in the world. But this was a different set of people, and so it was really fun.
Cool.
It was really mind-blowing. And then as we saw the videos, 3/4 inches, they'd bring them and we show them to Tom and Tim and the rest of the cast. And I watched this as it went from day one, and we did probably 98% of the recordings for it, and I just saw it grow into this huge
industry-changing film.
And we were part of it.
Yeah,
we were part of that first one with Beauty and the Beast and Lion King, and then this was all part of that. And now, as I look back on it, we were all part of that whole thing, and it was everything that they say it was. It was really magical. The actors, the performers. One thing I did have, if you still have any room on you.
Yeah, no, I'm just making sure we're still rolling. We are.
I don't know if I maybe discussed this with you, but on Beauty and the Beast, and they were going to be scoring again in New York, and by this time Roy Disney had been in the booth with us quite a bit, just giving little notes. He'd only stay for about a half hour and go, whoa, that was great, okay. But he knew who I was, and we became kind of pals. So Don Hahn, who was the producer, said, hey, Doc, we're going to have all the actors back for scoring for Beauty and the Beast. And do you want to come back and do all the pickups again for the actors? Come back on Tuesday. We're going to be scoring on Friday. So this gives you enough time to grab everybody. So we did that. I had all the guys come down and girls come down. And so everything's going great. Don Hahn, all the directors are in this little. The booth was probably a little bit bigger than that, a little bit bigger, and then the
in New York.
In New York, yeah, and the studio was probably right to here. It was a little tiny thing, and so did all the recordings, did all the pickups, and on Thursday night, the scoring mixer says, "Hey Doc, are you done with those guys?" And I went, yeah. And Don Hahn's like, "Well, don't stay too long because we're going out to dinner tonight." And I'm going, "Oh no, this is one of those." When those guys go out to dinner, they go out to dinner. It's not okay, we'll be in bed by 8. It's not like that. So I went up and I met the scoring mixer, and he goes, "So, what mics have you been using on the production for the last couple of years?" In 2 years. I said, I've been just using the U87. That's been, we're trying to keep it consistent to wherever we go. If somebody had to go to another studio, they take the U87. Okay, great, because that's what I'm going to hang for the vocalist. And I went, "Oh, great, man, the scoring mixer's asking me what to do." So anyway, we had a nice dinner. I said, "I gotta go. I got stuff to do." And so we all show up at the scoring stage, and the entire ensemble's there. And it was the first song out was "Be Our Guest."
Okay.
And they were, the whole time, all the tuning up, and I didn't know what they were going to start. I just was in the back, kept my mouth shut, And then Roy Disney comes in, and he's like, "Hey, everybody!" Everyone's, "Hey, Roy, how you doing?" It's the coolest, nicest man in the world, just fantastic guy. So he greeted, "Hey, Doc, how you doing? Nice to see you on this side of the coast." A little chat. I said, "Hey, So the guy goes, "All right, okay, you guys, we're ready." They had the arranger out there, and he had given out everything. Goes, "Okay, everybody ready?" And the tap 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 tap. And the first thing out of the gate was "Be Our Guest," and it had what's Lumiere going, "Ladies and gentlemen." It was unbelievable. I had never experienced anything like that in my entire life. It was that was magical, as you say. That was the most magical moment for me. And they did the whole thing. There were no mistakes. They had the background singers in the plexiglass booths or glass booths, whatever, but timpani, everything, just, and Dave got it on the first take. And as they let everything roll out, you don't stop, you just let the instruments stop, and it's dead quiet. It's dead quiet. And Roy Disney goes, "Oh, that was pretty good, wasn't it?" Everyone's like, "Ah!" And poor Dave, so after, I was, "Oh my God, that was great." And we're all kind of talking. Then everybody was like, "All right, Dave, was that okay? I thought I heard a distortion. I heard this, I heard that." And he goes, No, you didn't." And they play it back, and everybody's like, "It's bitchin'.
Yeah,
It's
awesome.
just so cool." And then so after that whole wonderful day, and in the evening, it was Friday evening, and Roy goes, "Well, when are you guys going back to LA?" And he goes, "Well, we're going to stay the weekend. We're going to get some crash down so we can get it to editorial and they can put it up with picture." "Well, who's flying back with me?" He goes, Don looks around and he goes, "Oh, Doc will." And I'm like, "No, that's okay. I don't want to be a bother to anybody." He goes, "Oh, okay, great, Doc. I'll see you tomorrow morning on the tarmac." And I went, "Okay." So I talked to Don. I said, "I don't want to be a bother. I got a plane ticket, to LAX." He goes, "You're gonna have a ball." He goes, "Coolest, nice jet. It's just you and him and the crew."
Crew, yeah.
And I went, "Okay." So I get out to the tarmac the next morning. I'm just nervous. I'm like, "Well, what am I going to talk to Roy about? I'm just I'm a button pusher." And so the guy who's like the big guy, he looks like Clutch Cargo. I don't know if you know the animated character, but Clutch Cargo, square jaw.
Yep.
"Where are you flying to, son?" And I said, "Well, my car's in LA, or no, my wife's going to pick me up at Burbank." "Well, I can get you home faster than she can come pick you up." And I went, "Okay, whatever." I was like, "Sorry, Mr. Clutch." So I get in the plane and we take off, and Roy and I start talking, and the gal, like the stewardess type, she goes, "Hey, Roy, we got barbecued, chicken sandwiches that we got at the deli. Oh my God, that's fantastic. That'll be great, Susie," or whatever. And she goes, "Doc, what do you want?" She goes, "We have barbecue, we have pastrami sandwiches." "Oh, I'll take a pastrami." And it was like a 3-hour flight because it's a jet.
Yeah.
it felt like it was 20 minutes. He talked about the studio and the revitalization of it, and bringing in Michael Eisner and Jeffrey and his kids, and it was unbelievable.
Right,
I mean,
right.
had I had a pocket recorder like yours, that would have been great to have, because it was real.
Well, Doc, thank you very much for inviting me into the studio and for all your great stories. This was, like, for the listeners, Doc told me before we started this that he didn't feel comfortable doing interviews and this was going to be difficult, but this was a You were a wonderful storyteller. Thank you very much.
I'm sorry. I hope I didn't bore anybody.
No, you didn't. You didn't at all. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks,
it's great
man.
meeting
Tim,
you.
it's great meeting you, too.
Wow, Doc was such a great guy, and I really hit it off with him. After the mics were put away, I got to hang out and get a tour of his mic locker and the rest of the studio. It was really special. This episode was volunteer edited by Rainer Lilishkus. He did a wonderful job and was great to interact with. Rainer is a science engineer by day and a sound artist and freelance engineer as a side job. He's based in Southwest Germany, and together with his wife Suzanne, they have worked on documentaries, radio plays, and sound installations. You can find some of their projects at www.radiospherica.de. Spherica is spelled S-F-E-R-I-C-A. Thanks so much, Rainer. Finally, remember to come out to our upcoming sound design meetups in Toronto on September 26th and New York City on October 26th. Full details at tonebenderspodcast.com. My name is Timothy Muirhead. Thanks for choosing to listen to Tonebenders.
Tonebenders is produced by Timothy Muirhead, Renee Coronado, and Teresa Morrow. Theme music is by Mark Strait. Send your emails to info@tonebenderspodcast.com. Follow us on Twitter via @TheTonebenders, and join Tonebenders Podcast on Facebook. Support this podcast. You can use our links when you shop with Amazon or B&H, or leave us a tip. Just go to tonebenderspodcast.com and click the support button. Thanks for listening.
Are you looking for more audio-related podcasts to listen to? Tonebenders is part of the Audio Podcast Alliance, featuring a hand-picked selection of the very best podcasts about sound. Be sure to hear the latest episodes from our friends in the community at audiopodcast.org.